class today. We're going to be talking about HR law. We have our group, Matt, Lauren, Carla, and Carlo. Yep, that's my group. Oh, okay, quick overview. We're going to go over the what, whys, and the who's of HR law, what EOC and OFCCP are and what they consist of. And then Lauren and Carla are going to go over harassment, and Matt and Carla is going to talking about discrimination. Okay, HR law is closely related to the labor and employment laws, which governs the rights and duties between employers and their workers. Some of the duties of the HR professions deal with hiring and firing process, paychecks, wages, employee benefits, overtime, and the employee handbook. Their jobs may also consist of workplace safety, privacy, preventing discrimination and harassment, and HR professionals must be familiar with different statutory and regulatory authorities in order to lawfully deal with companies' personnel. Some of these concerns are creating policies and procedures, affirmative action plans and policies, government contracts and wages, substance abuse and drug testing, unemployment compensation, and compliance and confidentiality agreements. These laws are important because it keeps you, the employee, from any wrongdoing by the employer, basically making sure that the employee rights are protected at all costs. The most important employment laws includes minimum wage, health laws, safety, discrimination again, as well as workers' compensation. The EEO, Equal Employment Opportunity, is when all individuals have an equal chance for employment that will be regardless of your race, religion, sex, genetic information, disability, and all that type of stuff. To ensure that these laws are being put into effect, the government enforces the constitutional amendments, legislations, executive orders, and court orders. The next slide, we have a list of the major EEO laws and regulations, which includes the 13th and 14th Amendment, Pregnancy Discrimination, Equal Pay Act, Civil Rights Act, Veterans Era. It's the list, nothing over it. The 13th and 14th Amendment, I'm pretty sure everyone knows that consists of. Anybody knows what they are? No? Okay. Abolishment of slavery. 13th Amendment. The EEOC is responsible for enforcing these laws and regulations. If any complaints are filed against the employer, it is the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission's job to make sure that these laws are in effect. Any complaints are filed against the employer, the EEO job to investigate the complaint within a specific time frame. So as sexual harassment claims were filed, they have about 180 days to fulfill the entire complaint. The Office of Federal Contract Compliance Procedures are responsible for ensuring that employers doing business with the government are following the laws and regulations for non-discrimination. If any business doing that are with the government are non-compliant, they must first contact the EEOC, tell the Department of Justice to begin criminal processing, then request the Secretary of Labor cancel or suspend any current contracts with the company, and forbid the company from hiring any future contractors. Some of the laws that organizations need to follow consist of providing reasonable accommodations for religious practices, provide us free of sexual harassment workplace, follow affirmative action plans, and to not discriminate based on anything other than skills, knowledge, and ability. These responsibilities must be placed around the workplace. Keeping a company out of the court by ensuring managers are following these laws are one of the biggest jobs on a human resource professional. There are a number of laws that hold managers and human resource managers personally liable for conduct in the workplace that violate these employment laws. They include the FMLA, which requires employers to provide workers unpaid leave for serious health conditions, the FLSA, which set labor regulations regarding minimum wage and requirements for overtime pay. Anyone who commits an act that arises an employment complaint or anyone even directly involved can be at risk of losing personal assets, even if the conduct wasn't intentional. Now we have Lauren.
Okay. Hi, my name's Lauren, and I'm going to be going over harassment, some of the specifics of harassment, examples, and also my personal, not experience, but how I deal with it as an RA on campus. Yep. If I say harassment a lot, it's because it's harassment. So, harassment is a form of employment discrimination, and it violates Title VII of Civil Rights Act, the Age Discrimination in Employment, and the Americans with Disabilities Act. Harassment is an unwelcome conduct, so this would be welcomed, but I'm going to hit you, okay? This is unwelcomed, okay? And it's based upon someone's race, color, religion, sex, national origin, age, disability, and genetic information. It's very similar to discrimination, if not the same, so that's why they're always grouped together. Unlawful harassment, that's when it's recognized by the law, is when someone is enduring an offensive conduct. So the conduct is so severe that it could create a work environment that is hostile or abusive to a reasonable person's eyes. Some examples of harassment would include stalking, offensive conduct, offensive jokes, slurs, name-calling, physical assaults like I just did to him, put-downs, and interference with the workplace. So it's basically like the harassers are huge bullies, like you're bullying. A huge category that's now in today's world, as you see women coming out more, is sexual harassment. It's a type of sex discrimination. It's unwelcome sexual advances, requests for several favors, and other verbal or physical conducts of sexual nature. So, someone who could be sexually assaulted could be a male or a woman, or assaulted in general. Usually you see in news it's the women being assaulted. It does not have to be the opposite sex, the harasser, and the harasser's conduct must be unwelcomed. Who is the harasser? It could literally be anyone. It could be your supervisor, another employee, it could be a non-employee, it could be a customer you have, like celebrities you see in the news today, like Matt Lauer or Ben Affleck, if you heard. They're harassers. So at Rowan, it could also be your classmates who could be a harasser. It could be the school's faculty, and it could be a professor, it could be anyone. So the major way to eliminate harassment in the workplace or at Rowan would be prevention, and that is basically educating your employees on the steps to prevent harassments. Like I said, I'm an RA on campus, so we go through 2 weeks of summer training and a week in winter training on harassment and discrimination and how you prevent that in residence halls. And if that comes or occurs, we know the process on what to do to help eliminate it. Also in the workforce, employees are trained as well for anti-harassment training, and they communicate to employees that harassment is not tolerated. It's also very helpful and important that employees or the person being harassed tells the harasser that it's unwelcomed and they should stop, and they should take the steps to tell someone like your HR management, or also my residents come tells me what's going on, and I'll go and take the next steps. Because if you just if you ignore it and you don't report it and let it go, it's going to escalate and come into a bigger problem. So next, we have the Office of Equity and Diversity. They, all these harassment and discrimination problems go to them. So once a resident or an employee of Rowan too, Carla will be talking about this more, but once a resident comes to RA or public safety, these people take care of it through different laws. The Equal Employment Opportunity, they enforce the civil rights. So in a work environment, they look at the case and they see the nature of the conduct and when it occurred, and they determine if it's severe enough to consider it unlawful or illegal. So that's how they proceed. So who is accountable? It's really the employer. So if your supervisor is harassing you and they know about it, and the employer knows about it, they will be accountable for it because they took no steps to stop it. But if the employer gives advice on how to stop harassment and tell them you should report this to this person, then they won't be liable. So if a resident comes to me and I give them advice and then I tell my supervisor, I won't be liable, but if I don't, I'll be in pretty big trouble. So why is this important? Why do you need to know about harassment? Well, we're all going into the workforce and we're all going to get jobs, and we all think, oh, this won't happen to us. Like, this never happens to anyone. But then, uh-oh, someone's harassing me. So now you're going to know what to do, what steps to take. You know who to talk to, and now you know, oh, this isn't right. Why is he like picking on me? You could stand up to someone and say, okay, you have to stop. This is unwelcome, and I don't feel comfortable. And as you see in the news today, women are all coming out saying, okay, this person sexually harassed me. So they had the courage to come out and tell somebody. So next we're going to have Carla talk about more of the university policies on harassment and discrimination. Thank you.
All right. Hi, guys. I'm Carlo. I just want to give a shout out to first Kai and Lauren for their talk about what sexual harassment is and harassment stuff and the laws of HR. I thought it was great to hear your opinions about that and stuff. What actually now I'm going to do is talk more about the harassment laws regarding relations to Rowan University. All right, the office that actually deals with problems regarding harassment is the Office of Equity and Diversity. They not only deal with any problems regarding harassment, they also deal with problems, like Lauren said, with discrimination. They deal with problems regarding people with disabilities, violence and bullying. Their main goal at the office is really just to eliminate any type of unequal treatment at the university. All right, so this is some of the staff that was that's actually in the Office of Equity and Diversity. Personally, I think they deserve more credit for what they actually do. They're literally trying to preserve the well-being of us at this university. They're trying to keep us safe, trying to keep that community, this wholesome community, as possible as they can. So they actually deserve more credit for what to do, as well as every other community, every other university that has this. So we already went over what Lauren said, what exactly harassment is and the workplace, and it's not tolerated. At Rowan, it's basically the same thing. It's not tolerated here. It's prohibited. And, you know, it's 2018 by now, so you would expect this to be, you know, common sense, but, you know, we still have to talk about it. And I'm actually going to talk a lot about it because, you know, it's important. We can't just push it down the road. So when it comes to reporting a sexual misconduct or sexual harassment or harassment in general, you can, for students, I know it's hard to do, but, you know, please report it. You have the right to file a criminal complaint. You have the right to file